Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Living on Blockchain. Today, we are speaking to Pratik Gauri. Pratik is the CEO of Fire. Fire is an L1 solution, which is a sustainable blockchain and keeping in mind the United Nations sustainability goals in mind while it is building its absolutely brilliant L1. It has recently gone live with its testnet, and we are very excited to interview Pratik and understand his vision for Fire.
Hi, Pratik. Thank you so much for taking out the time to speak to us. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks, Tarusha, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Likewise, it's an absolute pleasure that you could both take out the time and make this happen. So, for our listeners, can you tell us a little about yourself and your background?
So the background is, so I'm building something around the fifth industrial revolution. So Fire also, the layer one blockchain ecosystem that I'm building is also centered around the theme of fifth industrial revolution. So it's a concept that I started promoting about, more than 10 years back to prove the thesis
Okay.
that you can actually make more money if you do more good to the world, and that sustainability is going to define profitability. So
Okay.
that's something that I wanted to prove, and to prove that on a larger scale I started building companies. So I started my first company when I was 16, sold it when I was 20. It was an edutech company. Started my
Okay.
second, third, and I've built 8 companies before Fire, all of them around the same theme of the fifth industrial revolution, and all of them around the theme of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So, the 17 global
Hmm.
goals of sustainable development, which are about
Right.
edutech, education, or, climate or health or renewable, solar. So those,
Right.
gender equality. So those have been my sweet spots of, building companies, and again, proving the message that you can actually do good to the world and then end up making more money. So I was able to, impact tens of millions of people, generate tens of millions of dollars, and was able to prove this thesis. But then I wanted to scale it to a billion plus people and enable financial inclusion for 1.5 billion people who don't currently have access to banking and credit. And that's when I ventured into web3 and blockchain, and that's when I started Fire last year in August 2021.
Okay.
So what we did was we basically wanted to plug all the gaps that web3 industry currently have, one of the big ones being sustainability, and of course others being around it, and start an ecosystem to basically transition the world from a for profit economy in fourth industrial revolution to a for benefit economy in the fifth industrial revolution. So to enable that transition, layer one of course made the most sense, because if anybody builds on top of us, whether it's a government or a Fortune 500 company or any corporate or any developer or anybody, then we can actually decide the way validation process happens, and through that we can influence the way the world will work in the future. And the future of the world that we envision is a more greener and an abundant world. So to enable that transition, we started building a layer one ecosystem, and now we've built. So think of us as a competitor to any layer one, whether it's a Ethereum or a Solana or a Binance. But the difference being that we have an innovative secret sauce in every ecosystem component. So when you talk about our layer one, it has a mathematical algorithm inbuilt into consensus. We don't use proof of work or proof of stake. We use something called proof of benefit, which we have built,
Okay.
where we have where we have scraped data from about 900 million data points
Okay.
to, and that base, so 900 million data points is fed into the algorithm, and the output is an ESG score. And that actually also carries a small weightage, apart from nominated proof of stake in the consensus. So it's a sustainable nominated proof of stake, if I were to put it that way. So that's something which we have done. And if you talk about other ecosystem components, we will be coming up with our own cards. We'll be coming up with a wearable fashion device, NFC enabled device. So I mean, a lot of fintech products will of course be launched in the coming months to boost the utility of the token that we'll be launching. There will be a lot of, we are already seeing a lot of adoption. We are one of the first companies who actually have government signed on even before launch of testnet. So we're launching testnet on the 30th of November this month. But we're working with government of India, we're working with the US, we're working with Nigerian government and multiple others. So that's in a nutshell of what I'm trying to build.
That sounds wonderful. So you've talked about how you guys are, different from the, various other L1s, and basically it's on the basis of how you are calculating, proof of stake or proof of work, and now you've coined something called proof of benefit. So is this something that you guys have created on your own, or was this a concept that was already there and you guys have executed it well?
No, it's a patented thing. It's something that we've created on our own.
Oh,
So
that's wonderful.
a lot of research went into it, and it's something which is also one of our biggest secret sauces, and that also gave us. That's a big part of how we got the valuation in our last funding round as well, because it's very innovative. It actually will change the way blockchain industry actually works, because it will just give sustainability a different flavor, and a flavor where if you are not sustainable, then you might, if you consume a lot of electricity for instance, then you might not get, might not be able to make money as a validator. So that's something that we're trying to encourage.
Okay. So you said that, this is a patented concept and technology that, you guys are utilizing. So is this open source, or is this something that, that you're keeping as a secret sauce for yourself?
For now it's a secret sauce, but very soon we'll make it open source, because we
All
want
right.
other
Awesome.
people to once we launch a testnet, it will actually become open
Right.
source. We want others to use this, so it's going to be open source.
Right. Okay. This is a beautiful concept because, I think a lot of L1 solutions as well as L2 solutions, they get a lot of wrath around the energy utilization and how energy intensive this entire process of blockchain technology is. And that is why there are a lot of naysayers who, who have an issue with the tech. But when it comes to something like this, and, when you're creating a sustainable L1 solution, what is the way forward, perhaps, for the existing L1 or L2 solutions? Like, how do you see them competing with something like this, which kind of takes away that one particular, disadvantage, so to say, that they bring to the table as against yours?
So what we've done is, see, all of us already know that most of the dApps are currently existing on Ethereum, and they've now moved from, and they are moving towards a POS model, where now the problem with POS that we see is, if you just encourage a POS validation, that basically means that the rich will keep getting richer and the poor will keep getting poorer, although you decrease 99% of energy consumption. But
Yeah.
but
It
that's the
also
problem
brings
we
a
saw.
layer of centralization, right? Like,
It brings a layer
people
of,
who,
correct.
yeah.
So now what we've done is we have called, so the way our chain works, it's a a base substrate layer, where through 2 3 oracles we have plugged in EVM compatibility, and we have also plugged in the sustainability quotient that we have. So because we are EVM compatible, most of the projects we have already in talks to actually port them to Fire, who want to be
Okay.
sustainable. So of course there will be new ones building on us, but existing ones can also actually in a in a few hours or a few days can actually end up building on us. So that's also
Okay.
something that we are we will try to encourage.
All right. So is this like via some sort of a bridge, or are you EVM compatible already? Or do you have a particular SDK? Like, if somebody is, say, building on an Ethereum right now and they have a existing solution, how do they port to Fire?
So there's a bridge, yeah, so there's a
Okay.
bridge which they can use, yeah, exactly, yeah, we have a bridge in place,
Okay. So, and that bridge is
and that will
your own.
just take one token. It doesn't require two tokens.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, are you done with the auditing process and all the grind that comes with creating any sort of a Web3 platform for the bridge or for the L1 for your testnet?
um we are going through extensive auditing right now, because
Okay.
actually, to be honest, we are launched it is November 30, but we were ready with the product in in the first week or the second week of October. So since then we
Okay.
have been actually doing some audits. Internal audits are going on, and then of course
Hmm.
after internal audits, demos, we have actually plugged in some external players also to give us suggestions and opinions on how the product looks, will it work well, what are the kind of bugs we are expecting. And we are anyways launching testnet, so it'll be open for the community to start using it and
Right.
building on it. And then we want to actually take our own sweet time to see all the bugs that we will see, because look, I mean, any testnet, it'll be wrong to say that we'll not have bugs. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
I love to say that we won't, but I think we'll still want the community to find all the problems that currently exist, and we'll love to correct them, and then we'll go to mainnet. So I think that process of about 6 months is intentionally kept to make
Right.
sure we eliminate everything. But the internal audit is in place, and everything looks good for now. The suggestions
Okay.
I keep getting from the, although I mean, of course we have a large tech team in place, I'm not a techie myself,
Hmm.
but they are very confident, and we are, we'll roll it out on the planned date, so there are no changes with the date.
Awesome, awesome. So if you don't mind me asking, who is auditing you externally? Which firm is?
So we are currently working with Blockchain Australia,
Okay.
and a couple of more. I think my tech team actually will be able to give you a more sense. But Blockchain Australia is one of the firms that we are currently working with very very closely, and we are working with. So what we've also done is we are working with three firms right now, and all of them come from different geographies, having different people on board. So for instance, Blockchain Australia has about 24 very senior tech folks, so and
Okay.
most of them are from Australia. And then on the other hand, we are working with another external company in UAE, so that we get a, so basically what I have always felt that talent is very distributed, right? So we wanted to make sure we take
Mm.
opinions of people from across the world. So of course, we have some Indians in place, and then we have people from Australia. Then like, it's very diversified right now who are externally auditing us. And but
Okay.
Blockchain Australia is one of the major ones. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, can you tell me a little about the team behind Fire? Like, I know you. We've been friends for a while, but a little bit about the team. How many people are like the core team members, and how many team members do you have right now currently working full time on Fire?
One. So full time, look, I mean, we've been. So if you were to talk about on the business side and internally,
Mm.
on Fire payroll, it's about 120 plus. It's 123 or 24. But like, it's somewhere in.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's 123 or 124. I mean, Khushi, my HR would know exactly, but I think it's 123. So that's completely with Fire. Then
Okay.
we, of course, on the tech side, we use a couple of external vendors, right, to help us with the tech. So if you were to put
Right.
in all the consultancies and all the everything in place, then through the vendors we have access to more than 300 400 developers,
Wow.
and so those are the, and we are of course one of the biggest clients. So when I say we have access, we really have access. I mean, if I need to get something done at 4 a.m. India time, I can get something done at 4 a.m. India time. So they're as good as having them in house. But yeah, I mean, they are external to us, meaning they're on a retainer. So I can't call them employees of Fire, but of course we pay them a good retainer to make sure they work. So then if you were to plug all of that in, we would say 120 in house, and then about 300 400 externally. So yeah, pretty large team. So people who
Yeah.
build Fire, as I told you, the journey started in August last year. So it was me with along with another very good friend of mine, Pratik, so who actually leads the product and the research side right now.
Right.
So he's also been in the space for a long, long time. So he and I actually started, and he actually conceptualized a lot of the technical pieces. So, like for instance, we also have something called inheritance module in place. Now that's also
Okay.
patented, where if your wallet stays dormant for 6 months, then you can actually port your money, or that gets transferred to wallets of your choice. Then we have we've incorporated something called reverse transactions, because we saw that there was a lot of money being lost where you send the money to a wallet and then you can't retrieve it. So we have also incorporated reverse transactions into Fire, where if you send the money incorrectly, then you can take it back. Then we have something called interoperability. I know some of the companies or L1s are now starting to do it, but we've also
Hmm.
done that, where if you have Bitcoin, or somebody has Ethereum, so you can actually transact if you have a if you have a Fire L1. And that's also something which we intentionally built, because the world, the way forward for finances in this one will also be CBDCs. You've already seen India is launching one.
Yep.
Other
Yeah.
countries will also launch soon. So I think interoperability needs to be in place for any layer one to work with CBDCs. Otherwise, you just can't, because otherwise, one CBDC can't interact with the other CBDC of a different country. So we've incorporated that also. So in terms of the team, I think so two of us started mostly. Then we of course had a research team in place initially, which is currently
Right.
still with us, who wrote the research papers, right? So and who put the idea to basically put the idea to paper. So research team did it, and then there's a large tech team, and then now there's a big adoption team in place. Then of course there's a big marketing team. Yeah, so now the teams become pretty big after the funding rounds. I think they've
Awesome.
become pretty big. Yeah, so I think I didn't speak about the funding rounds, but yeah, we're well funded. So we raised 21 million last year in October, and then
Mhm.
we now just secured 100 million in about a couple of months back. So yeah.
See, guys, I think it's a well-known fact that to develop an L1 or build on it, you need a war chest, and you guys have the war chest, and it's the bear market. So I think it's the best time for you guys to build and really work towards adoption. And talking about adoption, I think if any L1 would require a lot of developers to basically build on their chain. You have that army of developers, but how are you incentivizing these guys to perhaps keep building on?
So grants program, of course, is one, but more than just grants, it's kind of an
Hmm.
incubators program. So we've
Okay.
started an incubators program where not only we give you access to see. I mean, we've been through the grind, we've been through the journey. So we know
Right.
what it takes to at least where we are right now. So what we've done is we know. I mean, I have seen, I mean, and you would have seen, in the market that currently exists, you've seen people having a lot of money, then also them getting bust, right? Then also them going
Yeah.
out of market in overnight. So
Right.
I think, if you're running a layer two protocol, or if you're running a layer one or anything in blockchain space, I think it's very important to have three types of capital ready. Otherwise, you cannot succeed. And those are relationship capital, human capital, and financial capital. So
Hmm.
people often say if you have money, then you'll succeed in the market. But I completely disagree, because you've seen so many players go out of the market, irrespective of how much money they had. So in our incubator program, what we do is we basically lend our whole structure to them. So we of course give them a grant which
Okay.
goes, in the form of USDT or BUSD or a stable, any stable, and then it's a hybrid between that and Fire tokens. Then we also are giving them access to our whole community, our access to our whole relationship orbit, then access to other funds, venture capital funds, if they might need them. So the whole community or the whole Fireverse is there for them. So that is something that we have already started in place, and we have already incorporated 12 projects into it. And mind you, we haven't launched testnet. So that's something that we'll be very, and there's a specific team in place now who's running the incubation program of
Okay.
Fire. So if you
Hmm.
can be an existing builder on any other existing L1, or you can be a new builder or a new
Hmm.
technology guy. We're ready to onboard you and help you and navigate you through the whole journey of building and then raising funds, or getting access to a bigger community, all of that, because we have all of that in place, right?
Wow.
So that's something that we've already incorporated. You can be a new techie also who doesn't know anything about a Rust or a Substrate or Solidity. And if you're a Web2 developer, we've also started something called a Digital Web3 University, and
Right.
that's already started to happen, where we onboard you, we fund your entire first 3 months, we teach you. I mean, our coders actually, because we have so many devs, I told you, so they teach you how to code on Web3. And then after that, either we hire you in Fire, or some of our competitors we hire you, or you end up building on top of us and we'll give you a grant. So there are a lot of exit options out of the 3-month program that we have. So one is the digital university and the other is the incubator program. So both of them are in place.
Awesome. And how does one go about like applying for this? Just for the advantage of our listeners.
So it's on fire.org website.
Okay.
You can just go and apply through that. Yeah. Or otherwise you can, I mean, we are pretty active on social media. You can actually reach out to us. Either you can just apply, or you can write an email to contact contact@fire.org, or you can just send us a note on LinkedIn, anybody from Fire.
Wow, awesome, awesome. This is so good. Literally, you guys are so open to getting new people on board, and you are actually giving back to the community by ensuring that there are more people that are adopting to Web3, and by actually contributing valuably to their journey. So, more
Yeah.
kudos to you, Pratik.
Yeah, thanks also, Tarusha, because you need to realize that there is a lot of skepticism in the market with what happened to Luna and what happened to FTX, right? So
Right.
We've been in the space for a long time, right? But people who just entering the space and who are very talented. So I particularly think that, this could be a time where we might lose a lot of those people who can be potential, Web3 builders, but they might not just start building because they're scared that, what's happening in the market. So I think we as, people who've been in the space, I think if you have if you have an incubator program, it just makes life easy for them. So that's
Right.
also part, yeah.
No, this is brilliant. I think, I think we can brainstorm about this a little later, but I do think that more value can be added by bringing together a lot of these build programs and incubator programs so that a lot of good quality startups can actually, get the relevant support that they need.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we'd love to, in fact, I know that you also run a wonderful company for this, so would love to, speak to you also on how we can do this together and how you can bring your resources also to what we are trying to do.
Absolutely, absolutely, always here to help. So, we've touched upon FTX and the Luna crash, and so I would love to, because now, we can't ignore the elephant in the room; it's already here. So, what are your thoughts about this entire FTX debacle?
Look, I think now they've already started to release proof of reserves. So
Right.
I think Binance did it, and I think KuCoin also did it. But I think so. I think this should have been done long back, which didn't happen, which was a big reason why both of them overnight, whatever happened. So I think regulation is a big thing which is needed now. In Web3, I know most of the people who are deep into crypto think regulation, then how are you being decentralized? But I now have we've been in the space for long to kind of figure out that is just that a big enough argument to say, okay, let's not, have a regulation in place. It doesn't need to be it can be, a DAO system, a DAO kind of regulation. But there needs to be some regulation, because if you look at the flip side, right, if you don't have any
Hmm.
regulation, then in one night or in 1 hour, a lot of my friends lost millions of dollars, right? I'm
Yep.
and some of them, and I'm not talking even about people who, and there's some people who just entered the Web3 space and they just made, like, say somebody just made, like, say, $2,500, and they lose the 2,500 in 1 minute. So imagine the impact that those people are having right now. So then
Absolutely.
there's definitely a need of regulation. Now what the regulation could look like, I think we are also starting in Fire something called, a policy draft division, where we will be working, with other competitors that we have and other players we have to come up. We all can come together to come up with some sort of structure, which could be appealing to the community, which says, okay, we are decentralized in a way, but also
Hmm.
there is some sort of regulation so that it doesn't harm a layman who's entering, right? So it's just so bad right now what's happened, because I know so many people who I've been receiving non-stop texts on, is Web3 even the future? Now people are starting to question that. So there's a lot of skepticism in the market, and that needs to go away, and that can only go away through a regulation process. So I think there needs to be some sort of consortium that needs to be formed from
Yeah.
all the big elephants. They need to form a consortium and come together and say, okay, we will protect your money and we will protect your data. Because if you can't protect consumer money, and then there is no point of running either an exchange or any protocol. So that I think needs
I
to that
absolutely agree.
yeah, I think so. That's the way forward. We're going to initiate it very, very soon, and we're going to invite other people also to join the movement.
Yeah, I think it's very imperative. We were talking about it the other day as well, right? You and I, that I think obviously we want to we are proponents for decentralization, but decentralization should not, bottle down to say absolute anarchy and no accountability. As an industry, there can be self-regulation. I'm not saying that okay, government entities have to come in and start regulating, because I strongly believe that policy is very iterative, and I feel that policy catches up with technology. So I don't think that even if every single country on this planet is able to create a policy around crypto or agree on a certain set of standards, it would still be very relevant because it'll be dated. By the time it actually gets passed and becomes a legislation or becomes like the rule of law, it'll become dated. So it is very important that as an industry we come together, as you said, create a consortium perhaps and create some standards that absolutely must be followed. Be it proof of reserves or any such standardization process. I think would really create like a level playing field, and also because now we are in that phase where we are looking for greater adoption in the market. I think nothing will cue in more adoption than putting some comfort in the end user's mind.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And that's also something. So, we, as I mentioned, right? So, on one side, we are going to we're going to colleges across the world and sponsoring hackathons and encouraging people to join the Web3 movement and become builders and build on layer ones. And on the other hand, when you see these
Right.
kind of news, right, like you lose a big community in an hour, right? So, think of it from that point
Yeah.
also, so which is very sad. And also I've
Yeah.
seen, because of a few players, right, who, and I mean, look, this is a new space, and in any space, in fact, still, do you think there are people who are not doing wrong stuff in web 1 and web 2? Definitely there are, but right now, because
Exactly.
there's such mature markets, the big players call the shots. In what's happening in web 3 is, because we've made it decentralized, even if a smaller player makes a mistake, it actually spirals to everybody, and it creates a domino effect, and people end up feeling the effect of it. So we need to definitely think of a way through a consortium on how we can counter the negative malpractices that are happening with some players, because of course, like, some players I know, they're doing so well, they're working hard to encourage adoption, they're trying to bring the community together, they have built some crazy innovative products. So those people should definitely not feel that because of one or two players we are getting affected. So there definitely needs to be a regulation.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. See, I think we're very incestuous as an industry simply because, like, we are a very small industry. Web3 is in its infancy, and everybody is somehow, related in some way or the other with other projects. And as you mentioned, that there are bad players in every industry. This is that our industry is so small that any bad ripple causes like a tsunami, perhaps, which might not happen in the other industries because they are now at a certain level of maturity.
Yeah, 100% agreed with you. Yeah.
What do you think can be done, like actively, apart from, say, as we've talked about, saying setting standards for self-regulation? What other things do you think can be done to instill more maturity in this space?
I think one should be, like we mentioned, like certain guidelines or policies set by, say, a regulatory DAO or some players coming together. That's definitely one. I think the second is, before you basically make a project really famous, right? When you say, because in Web3, I've also seen, anybody who comes in the market and does something crazy, right? We think, oh,
Yeah.
wow, what a big deal. And that
Right.
happens because also it's a new market, but that
Yeah.
currently doesn't happen in web 1 and web 2. So I think we need serious players from web 2, see, as much as web 3 players, who are most of them in web, most of the people who kind of, I would say, done well in web 3, they're young, right? And with young, I mean, see, I'm also young, but that also there's a we need more responsible players in web 3 now, which basically means that when you see boards of web3 companies, right, we need to bring some traditional players in. As much as you might say, we're not going to bring them in, but you need them, right? Because they've been through the grind. I mean, web 1 and web 2 also, it took long years to become mature and stable, so they've already seen that wave, right? They've already ridden that wave. So why would you discount that? Why would you say we don't want them? I think one big thing which could work would be to bring very, very strong traditional players from web 1 and web 2 and make them enter web 3, make them believe in web 3 and sit on boards of some companies and help navigate the journey. I mean, who knows, if
Yeah.
some very strong web 1 web 2 players would have been on the board of ftx, it might not have happened. I'm not saying it would have been true, but
Absolutely.
it might have, right? So
Yeah. No,
why don't,
absolutely. It's actually shocking that they didn't have like a board at all.
yeah, exactly, right? So why, I mean, and so why don't we get those players in, right? those kind of people in. And we've already started to do it. So if you see the board of fire, I
Yeah.
intentionally, when I started, I was of the opinion that I want, or as much as I wanted to be decentralized, I definitely want to get expertise and thought leadership of very strong people from web 1 and web 2. So we have people from PwC, we have people from McKinsey, we have people from Christie's, we have people from consumer companies like Louis Vuitton. We have very, very strong, we have like people from priceline.com. I mean, the founder. So we have really, we are getting billionaires from web 1 and web 2 into web 3 and making them see it's new for them also, right? So, but the good thing is when you tell them, oh, this is happening, they can come to solutions far quickly than what you and I can, because we are young,
Absolutely.
right? So
Yeah.
we can say, oh, a lot of web3, what I've seen, all the 30-year-olds in web3, what they say is, 3 years experience in crypto is as good as 30 years in traditional finance. Okay, fine, agreed.
No,
It might be
it
true.
it might, I might not agree there. I think, experience really
Yeah.
matters. I think, you are in a new industry. You can't say that, okay, 3 years worth of experience here is 30 there. No, like those two things are not equivalent. Like,
Yeah.
obviously,
No, what
crypto
I have
things
done is
move
I have
fast.
bought both. I what if you see my board, I'm getting some crypto
Yeah.
billionaires on one side, and
Yeah.
then I'm getting traditional players, and then I also have people from government. So as I know, again, there's a big saying that you should not work with government. Well, I have never believed in it. I think, I mean, my goal was to impact a billion plus people, and that's why blockchain industry was started, right? So it's not about what you think; it's about what the end goal should be, and the end goal is to enable financial inclusion. The end goal is to, involve 1.5 billion people who don't have access to banking credit. That's the whole point of DeFi. Why was
Right.
decentralized banking started, right? To bring those people in, and now
Yeah.
whatever it takes to bring those people in, I would go to them. I don't have any ego problems. I would say, okay, help me out. And I think government, if you work with the government, it really helps in getting adoption really quickly because they have access to people. And if you can do that, and in the end the goal is to impact people, right? That's why
Yeah.
the industry exists. So I think a more open minded approach is what is needed. And a big problem, why that's not happening, is because most of the people are young and they are not ready
Hmm.
to accept that web 1 and web 2 can be huge contributors to web 3, I think. So it's more the problem is in the mind, right? So that's
Yeah.
why I'm saying a consortium DAO system needs to happen through regulation, and there needs to be certain guidelines. Otherwise everybody will think, oh, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, because oh, because people are confusing decentralization and ownership to saying, I'm going to do whatever I want, nobody can say anything.
Yeah.
Well, with that you are impacting the end user negatively.
Yeah, absolutely. No, what you said, I think, see, experience can never be discounted. I think, it is always going to be a mix of Web 1, Web 2, experienced guys who can really set the path for Web 3 entrepreneurs. Doesn't like, it doesn't curtail perhaps the innovation, which is, I think that, that is the kind of fear that Web 3 entrepreneurs hold. That if you're getting in somebody from Web 2, maybe they'll curtail the innovation and they don't understand the technology well. But it needs to be a balance, for your board or for your advisors. There needs to be a balance there to make sure that this industry is moving in the right direction. We can't just have, as you said, that, decentralization cannot be equated with wild, wild west, that anybody is doing absolutely anything that they want and with no not paying heed to the kind of consequences it might have for the end user. Because the reason of that all of us, you, me, and people listening in here are hopefully looking at blockchain and Web3 and this technology, and we are working here, is because there is a solid reason. There is that decentralization can bring in a certain evolution in the way our systems function and the way certain industries are performing, and that is like the beauty. It's not just in the financial world, it's across sectors. So we need to remember that, but we also need to sort of ensure that we are giving ample respect and ample due respect to people who have the right experience.
I agree with you 100%. I think we are completely on the same page.
Yeah,
See, I mean, look, if you and I can be on the same page on just one podcast, right? So imagine a DAO system where you have like a 51% voting process similar to a validation process, right? And that regulation decides what you can do and what. See, I mean, there will be a sense of ownership and decentralization. It will be like, you can't do this. Even if you can define what you can't do to make sure people don't get affected with money and data. I think those are the two big pieces where the problems are. So if you can make sure the problem doesn't, happen to end user, I think that's enough.
right.
Then you're talking about more adoption, right? Because look, I mean, web3 adoption currently, it might, I mean, look, in terms of money, you can say it's a 2.5 $3 trillion market. um I'm being one of the strongest believers of web3. I think you can't actually go to 10 15 trillion without getting people, right? Without getting more adoption. And to get more adoption,
Absolutely.
yeah, and for to get that kind of adoption, I mean, look, you can spend any amount of money. I mean, as an L1, I can say, like, if I give 100 people, any amount of grants, if they don't believe in whole concept of web3, and if these kind of incidents keep happening in the next ones, they are not going to build on us. Like, I know that for a matter of fact, because they're going to get scared and run away. So then, I mean,
Yeah,
you
prioritize
need
this.
to make sure. Yeah.
Ultimately, I think all industries are led by emotions, right? All markets are, all industries are, because people and human beings are at the center of it. And human beings, we are more emotional than anything else. We'd like to think that, okay, we are, we'll be done on logic, but that is mostly not like always the case. So what you said is absolutely right. Like probably bringing in a DAO model for, some kind of self regulation in the industry is imperative perhaps to drive in more adoption. So just creating good solutions is not going to bring in the adoption, which is ultimately what we want.
Correct. I agree with you 100%. I think that's the way forward.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely there. So this is wonderful. Now, to moving to perhaps some lighter topics, let's talk a little about, who are folks in this space, or what are the kind of resources that you turn to when you want to, glean off some new material in the Web3 space. Are there any books that you would recommend? Any, I don't know, KOLs or any thought leaders who you think, are pushing out the right information?
So look, I mean, I would highly recommend books and not a social, not look, social media. So okay, there are two pieces to this. One is
Hmm.
you should be mature enough to understand that one is information assimilation, where you can get hundreds, you can read hundreds of articles, but that doesn't mean you need to follow exactly what's written in the article. Please be like, if somebody listening to that, I want you to carefully understand that I read 100 things on the internet. That doesn't mean I'm going to do what's written there, right? And I am going to. So first thing is, you need to form your own opinion. So like, you should read a lot of material. Yes, you should read a lot of. I am a big firm believer of reading a lot of books, although I don't get time. So
Right.
read definitely. If you are planning to enter, Web3, read on token economies. So there's one that I read, by Sherman Washmager. I think that's a book that I read. But you read any book on token economies, it's a new concept. But definitely read. So I would rather just give you a glimpse. So read book on a token economy for sure. Read on how,
Right.
blockchain can enable financial inclusion. So read any book on that. I mean, it doesn't matter which author, right? Read any book on that, but just make sure that when you read the book, you should not be of the opinion, oh, I read it here, so I'm not going to do exactly that. No, that's not how it works. You read many books, you read opinions of many KOLs. So I follow a lot of KOLs on Twitter. That doesn't mean I'm going to exactly do what they are saying, because it's their
Right.
opinion. So you need to form your own opinion. Then definitely, if you are entering a space, read more about how to build blockchain projects. So there is one book by Narayan Prusti that I read. But of course, I'm not recommending to read the same book, but I'm just giving you genres. So one token economy book, one on how to build a blockchain project. So I read by Narayan Prusti.
Hmm.
um, then I've also read by Imran Bashir a book called Mastering Blockchain. But again, I no ways I'm recommending the book, but you choose your own thing. But yeah, but and then I've there's a new book that I just got, which was the something called the Ultimate Web3 Pocket Guide by Jesse Mongion that was just released few months back. So in fact, a lot of people actually end up gifting me books. So that's why I'm
Hmm.
naming these books, because I'm in the space. So when I travel a lot, people gift me their books. But I read mostly to just get well equipped, but I think one part, Tarusha, is reading books. One second
Right.
part is, being active on social media platforms to read whatever's, through KOLs, whatever their opinions are. And the third most important thing is attending events. I think that's something which is very important. So
Right.
there are a lot of events which happen across the world. Even if you have a dearth of funds or money, just attend, attend, become a part of Web3 communities in your city. So you can be in any city across the world, there are Web3 communities, so become a part of that community, because then you get to hear diverse opinions of people from diverse geographies. The good thing about Web3 is there are lawyers, there are developers, there are and everybody is trying to have their own opinion. So it's a very diverse mix of in the community. So I'm a part of a lot of community. I think that's also very important. I think so. Attending events is important. Books is important, and then KOL is important. So I think do all of that, but then in the end, form your own opinion. That's the most important
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, yeah. I think that's something that I would recommend.
I think that's fabulous advice, because people don't recommend books in this space, and it really makes me mad because I think books have taught me everything that I know. Quite like you, I was not a techie when I started in the tech space like 12 years back almost. And I learned everything by either doing or just by, kind of gleaning in information from
I
and
did
of
the
books.
same.
So, yeah. So
I did
it's
the same.
like, exactly. So that is why I think you and I have a very special space for books in our hearts. And I think books are a wonderful way to, just learn
I think
at
one
your own
also,
pace.
you're talking about books. So the another one that I'm reading, because you talked about books, I just went to my bookshelf. So
Hmm.
there's this book that that's just the one I got is about the metaverse and how it will revolutionize everything, by Matthew Ball. So I and
Right.
I'll tell you how I got that book, because I was reading some post on LinkedIn, and it showed me it's one of the most anticipated books of summer. So now I don't even know Matthew myself, but I just got the book to just read. So, like, just
Right.
be important, very important to understand that gleaning for information is nice, but don't take it as the final word. Like, if something's written in even definitions, right?
Absolutely.
In Web3, definitions are
Yeah.
also very subjective. So when somebody asks you what is a metaverse, I mean, I can tell you 10 different definitions, right? And 100 people will tell you 1,000 definitions. So it's important for you to digest 1,000 definitions and then form your own definition. But until you get 1,000 definitions, how will you form your own, right? So I think
Yeah.
reading is very important. Attending events is very important. Becoming a part of a community which is active is very important. I think those three, and then of course social media, to just read views of what other people are thinking in the space. Either KOLs or other protocols or other entrepreneurs. I think that's also good. So I think those four.
I think, yeah, what you said, that it's very important, especially in this day and age when there is so much misinformation. And, just in general, this is just in general, I think good advice for life and not just Web3. That, as if you're reading something, or if you are taking in information or any kind of content assimilation you're doing from any source, always try to, look at it critically. Always try to ask more questions. Because if you're just going to take something at face value, you don't really know who's trying to dupe you. So that is brilliant advice, and that is something that I go ahead and tell these, new guys who are starting in this space, and in general, as I said, for life also. This is just good advice in general. Pratik, this
Yeah.
has been such a lovely conversation. I really don't want it to end because this has been just like chatting, but there's been some great insights. But sadly, we're kind of running out of time. So I would like to ask you the one question that I ask everybody that comes on this show. If you have like if you meet somebody who's say in the Web 1 Web 2 space, and who is basically peering into the Web 3 space from the outside, what would be your advice to have them start living on blockchain?
To start, I mean, okay. So I would say there are two pieces which impact the world in a very big way. One is data, the second is money. The future of data
Right.
and the future of money will reside on the blockchain. So now, and the way that happens, I need support. I invite everybody to be a part of the revolution. Somebody might come, because the point is now it's a new space. So once you enter the space, you just open your mind to a whole set of possibilities. And so web, if you see, I would also say, if you read a New York Times article of 1991, it said there is a new fad in the market called the internet. By 2005 what internet did. um
Yeah.
when I were to talk to my mom in 2000 and 10 and say, I'm on Facebook, she used to say, why are you wasting time? I
Right.
would tell you that I made a lot of my connections on social media, and they are now my best friends, and there's something that I work with now. So it's really impacted me very positively, and my mom would endorse it now, and she's also on Instagram and Facebook. So now you know what Web2 did to you, right? Now
Yeah.
Web3 is in the infancy. So the earlier you enter, the better are your chances of contributing to the new world order, which is
Right.
definitely going to be shaped by decentralization, by Web3, and by blockchain. So I would invite everybody to be a part of the revolution. That's how I would ask them.
I think that is absolutely brilliant again. No, because I think I say that a lot as well, and we are on the same page on several matters. And this is the advice that I give a lot of people, that you if you want to be a part of something big, just think the internet and how people were poo-pooing it when it had come out. And you don't even have to think about the internet so much. You can think about electricity. You can think about any innovation, any innovation that has happened in society has met with a lot of backlash, in it when it's in its infancy. And then slowly but surely it has taken over, and it's become a very integral part of our lives. And now even people who perhaps don't essentially understand the ins and out of that technology are utilizing it. And that is the
Yeah,
beauty of any new innovation.
exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pratik, for taking out the time to speak to me. And, this has been, again, a wonderful conversation. Are there any parting words that, you would like to say before we wrap this up?
I think I would like to say, one just parting, line. So one is, I often used to say that, talent is equally distributed, but opportunities are not. So, if you were to believe in this, please join the Web3 movement, because it actually symbolizes that you can be anybody. You could be a lawyer, you could be a developer, you could have any background, right? You could have studied arts in your college or school. There are equal opportunities in Web3. So it challenges the whole statement that, if you have, I mean, it basically is a movement which has democratized the access to opportunities. So it's the right place to be in. So enter the space and enjoy the space, because it's new advancement happens every 30 minutes. So it's very exciting. So I think that's and then another one that I would like to say as a closing remark would be, please make sure, if you enter the space, then perseverance is just key. You can enter in a bull market or a bear market, but perseverance is key. You can't come in and say, oh, nothing happened in 3 months. I've been trying to build, nothing happened, because that doesn't happen anywhere. So you need to
Yeah.
have perseverance. And if you have perseverance, then you'll ultimately succeed in this space, because there are so many people who just come in for, quick money, and they exit the market very quickly. So, and the people who've been in the space, they've done very well. So the time is the most important thing. Just enter with an open mind to learn as much as you can. And if you learn a lot, then you'll be, and if you stay in the space for a long time, you'll be successful.
Absolutely. I think perseverance and just making sure that you are getting in the space with the right mindset. That there is in my school. So I'm an ex-Martinian. So my house's motto was perseverance conquers all. So you kind of touched a nerve there. But yeah, absolutely. I think perseverance will conquer all if you're building in Web3. Get in with the right mindset, and there would be no stopping you. So once again, Pratik, thank you so much. These are great parting words. And with that, I would like to close this particular show.
Thank you so much, Tarisha, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.